3 months after the proving ground, humanity had become both famous and controversial across the galaxy. Some species saw them as heroes, beings who could survive impossible conditions and help others. Other species saw them as threats too powerful to be trusted. The Galactic Council tried to navigate the middle ground, looking for ways to prove humans were assets rather than dangers. The opportunity came from tragedy. The Velian research ship Distant Hope had crashed on Terath 9, a Class 2 Deathworld known for its hostile environment. The planet had aggressive predators, acid rain that could melt metal, plants that released toxic spores, and regular seismic activity that made the ground itself dangerous. 5 rescue teams from different species had tried to reach the survivors. All 5 had failed, with casualties among the rescuers themselves. Council Speaker Mithrasa called Jinwoo to a private meeting. "Captain, we have a situation that requires unique capabilities. 7 Velian researchers are trapped on Terath 9. They have perhaps 3 days of supplies remaining. Standard rescue teams cannot survive the planet's conditions long enough to reach them." Jinwoo studied the mission data on the display. The crash site was 15 kilometers from the nearest safe landing zone, through terrain that looked worse than anything Earth had to offer. Almost worse. "You want humans to attempt the rescue because we're Deathworlders." "Yes," Mithrasa admitted. "I am asking you to risk your lives because your biology gives you the best chance of success. If you refuse, no one would blame you. This is not your responsibility." Jinwoo thought about his crew. They were freight haulers, not professional rescuers. But he also thought about 7 people waiting to die on a hostile planet because no one else could help them. "We'll do it. But I need one condition. We do this our way, with our methods. No committees, no oversight trying to tell us how to handle Deathworld conditions." Mithrasa agreed immediately. "You will have full authority. We're also assigning Observer Talara to document the mission from orbit. She has requested to witness how humans operate in such environments." 6 hours later, Jinwoo's crew was on a modified shuttle approaching Terath 9. Talara remained in a shielded observation ship, watching through remote cameras and sensors. As they descended through the atmosphere, acid rain immediately began hitting the shuttle's hull, leaving steaming marks on the protective coating. "This stuff will eat through our ship in about 4 hours, Suho reported, checking his engineering readouts. "We need to move fast." They landed as close to the crash site as possible, but the terrain was too unstable for a direct approach. The crew disembarked into an environment that made Gateway Station's concerns seem reasonable. The air was humid and thick, filled with spores that could cause respiratory failure in most species. The temperature was over 40 degrees with high humidity. The ground was covered in vegetation that moved on its own, sensing prey. Yuna led the way, her combat training making her the natural choice for point position. She carried a machete-like tool to cut through the hostile plants. Suho followed with sensors and repair equipment. Hana had her expanded medical kit, prepared for both human injuries and alien biology. Minho used his navigation computer to plot the safest route, adjusting constantly as the terrain shifted. Jinwoo brought up the rear, watching for threats. The acid rain started 5 minutes into their trek. It burned where it hit exposed skin, but human skin was surprisingly resistant to chemical damage compared to most species. The crew simply covered their heads with treated cloth and kept moving. In orbit, Talara watched in horror as the humans walked through conditions that had killed trained rescue specialists. 2 hours into the journey, they encountered the predators. 6-legged creatures the size of Earth's large cats with armored hide and claws designed for ripping. They moved in a pack, recognizing potential prey. The creatures were apex predators on Terath 9, fearing nothing. They had never encountered humans before. Yuna saw them first and made a decision in seconds. Running would trigger their chase instinct. Standing still would make them attack cautiously. Instead, she did something unexpected. She roared, a sound from deep in her chest, and charged toward them while making herself look bigger. The predators hesitated. This prey was acting like a predator. This wasn't normal. One creature lunged anyway, and Yuna met it with her machete, years of training guiding her strike. The creature fell, injured but alive. The rest of the pack reassessed. These strange 2-legged beings were dangerous. The predators retreated, choosing to hunt easier prey. Aggressive mimicry, Hana explained to Talara through the comms link. Act like a bigger predator, and smaller predators sometimes back down. It doesn't always work, but Yuna has good instincts. Talara was speechless. The humans had just scared off predators that had killed members of the previous rescue teams. The trek continued through increasingly hostile terrain. They crossed areas where the ground itself was acidic, where plants tried to grab them with barbed tendrils, where geysers of toxic gas erupted without warning. The human crew adapted constantly. Suho used his engineering knowledge to build temporary bridges over dangerous areas. Minho's navigation found paths that avoided the worst hazards. Hana treated minor injuries with quick field medicine. After 10 hours of travel, they reached the crash site. The Velian research ship was half buried in acidic mud, its hull corroding. The crew had sealed themselves in the ship's reinforced safe room, but their supplies were nearly exhausted. Jinwoo hammered on the outer hull using a specific rhythm, a signal that rescuers had arrived. The Velians opened the door cautiously, expecting to see professional rescue teams in advanced protective gear. Instead, they saw 5 humans in simple clothing, covered in mud and acid burns, looking tired but very much alive. The Velians were insectoid beings, fragile by Deathworld standards, and they stared at their rescuers with compound eyes that reflected disbelief. "We're here to take you home," Jinwoo said simply. "Can everyone walk?" The Velian leader, a scientist named Tixelar, nodded slowly. "We can walk, but we cannot survive outside this ship. The environment is lethal to our species." Suho had anticipated this. "We brought portable shelters. They're basically sealed boxes that we'll carry. You'll be safe inside while we transport you to the shuttle." The crew worked quickly. They transferred the Velians into sealed containers that maintained safe atmosphere and temperature. Each container weighed over 100 kilograms fully loaded. The human crew lifted them without complaint, adding them to their existing gear load. Most species would need mechanical assistance for such weight. Humans had evolved to carry heavy loads over long distances. The return journey was harder. They were exhausted carrying extra weight, and the planet seemed to sense their fatigue. The predators returned, this time in larger numbers. The pack had gathered, perhaps recognizing a wounded group trying to flee. "Set down the containers," Yuna ordered. "Defensive formation." The crew formed a circle around the Velians' shelters. Suho pulled out a container of their shuttle's fuel, something highly flammable. Minho had his navigation computer, which could emit bright light and loud sounds. Hana held her medical kit's laser scalpel, tiny but sharp. Jinwoo had a length of metal pipe. Yuna had her machete. The predators attacked. The fight was brutal but short. Humans had not evolved to be the biggest or strongest predators on Earth. They evolved to be the smartest, the most adaptable, and the most persistent. Suho created a wall of fire with the fuel. Minho blinded the creatures with light. Yuna and Jinwoo used their weapons with precision born from practice. Hana protected the Velians while providing covering attacks. 3 creatures died. 4 more were injured. The rest fled. The human crew had injuries too, cuts and bites that would need treatment, but nothing immediately life-threatening. They picked up the Velian containers and continued moving. They reached the shuttle with 1 hour to spare before the acid rain would have penetrated the hull completely. The crew loaded the Velians aboard, took off immediately, and left Terath 9's atmosphere. Only when they were safely in orbit did anyone relax. Talara boarded their shuttle, needing to see the humans with her own eyes. They were injured, exhausted, covered in mud and acid burns, and they were smiling. "You did what 5 other teams could not," Talara said quietly. "You saved all 7 Velians." "We did what needed to be done," Jinwoo replied. "Nothing special, nothing special." Talara's voice rose. "You walked through acid rain, fought off apex predators, crossed terrain that should have killed you, and carried heavy loads for hours, all while treating it like a difficult day at work." Hana shrugged. "Humans are persistence hunters. We evolved to chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. We can keep going long after most species would quit. It's just how we're built." Tixelar emerged from the medical bay where he had been treated. The Velian scientist approached Jinwoo and bowed deeply, a gesture of profound respect in his culture. "You saved us. My crew would have died on that planet. We owe you our lives. No debt," Jinwoo said. "If we were the ones trapped, I hope someone would help us too." Talara filed her report to the Galactic Council. She described every detail of the rescue mission. She noted that humans treated the Class 2 Deathworld like it was merely challenging, not impossible. The Galactic Council chamber was a massive dome that could hold representatives from all member species in comfort. Today it was packed with dignitaries, observers, and media drones. Everyone wanted to see the humans who had defeated a Vraxian warrior and drunk poison for breakfast. Jinwoo and his crew stood in the center of the chamber, looking small and vulnerable compared to the hundreds of species watching them. Council Speaker Mithrasa, a diplomatic Shalonian with decades of experience, floated above them on a hover platform. Her shell gleamed under the lights, and her voice carried authority that came from years of keeping peace among argumentative species. Humans of Earth, you stand before the Galactic Council to determine your place in our civilization. Your arrival has been unusual, to say the least. Jinwoo bowed respectfully. Speaker Mithrasa, council members, we apologize for any disruption we've caused. We're explorers and freight haulers who didn't know about the galaxy beyond our local space. We want to learn, to trade, and to be friends with all species. Your intentions may be peaceful, said a voice from the council seats. Councillor Vren, a militaristic Draxian with sharp features and sharper opinions, stood up. But your capabilities are concerning. You are Deathworlders, evolved in conditions that would kill most of us. How can we trust that you won't use your natural advantages to dominate other species? Yuna tensed, but Jinwoo placed a hand on her shoulder. We understand your concern, Counselor. On Earth we have a saying, trust is earned, not given. We're willing to prove ourselves. Vren's expression was unreadable. Then I propose a test. The Proving Ground. It is a training facility designed to test elite soldiers from across the galaxy. Only 3% of participants complete all challenges. If your crew can survive the Proving Ground, it will demonstrate that you possess not just physical capability, but also wisdom, teamwork, and restraint. The Council will grant you full recognition and rights within galactic society. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Proving Ground was notorious. It combined extreme environmental challenges, puzzle solving under stress, and combat simulations. Most species sent their best soldiers, and most of those soldiers failed. Sending civilian freight haulers was either brilliant or cruel. Speaker Mithrasa looked troubled. Councillor Vren, the Proving Ground is designed for military personnel with years of training. These humans are civilians. Then they can refuse, Vren said simply. But if they claim to be no threat, surely a test designed for soldiers should be manageable for peaceful freight haulers. Jinwoo understood the trap. Refuse in humans would seem weak or cowardly. Accept and they might fail, proving they were lucky survivors rather than capable beings. But there was a third option. Accept and succeed. We accept your challenge, Councillor Vren. When do we start? 6 hours later, the crew stood at the entrance to the Proving Ground. The facility was built on a remote moon, far from inhabited space. It consisted of 7 connected zones, each designed to test different aspects of combat readiness and survival skills. Observers from across the galaxy watched through remote feeds, making bets on how quickly the humans would fail. Suho checked his equipment. Each crew member was allowed to bring one tool from their ship. He had chosen a standard engineering hammer. Hana brought her medical kit. Minyo had his navigation computer. Yuna carried a length of metal pipe. Jinwoo brought a water filtration device. Simple tools, nothing high-tech or military grade. The first zone was the temperature chamber. Participants would be exposed to extreme heat and cold, cycling between -40 and +50 degrees Celsius. Most species could barely tolerate such extremes for minutes before requiring medical attention. The human crew walked into the chamber as doors sealed behind them. The temperature dropped rapidly. Ice formed on the walls. The crew's breath became visible in the frigid air. Most species would be unconscious by now. But the humans just moved closer together, sharing body heat. They had evolved this response over thousands of years, living through ice ages and heat waves. This is like winter in northern regions back home, Minho said, his teeth chattering slightly, uncomfortable but manageable. The temperature swung the other way, rising to 50 degrees. The humans began to sweat, their body's cooling system activating automatically. They slowed their movements, conserved energy, and drank water from Jinwoo's filtration device. After 30 minutes, they emerged from the temperature chamber tired but healthy. The observers were stunned. Most species needed full environmental suits to survive that challenge. The humans did it in regular clothes. The second zone was the toxic atmosphere chamber. The air inside contained high levels of carbon dioxide and trace amounts of sulfur compounds. It would suffocate most species within minutes. The humans put cloths over their faces and walked through the chamber, breathing shallowly and moving quickly. Their bodies evolved to handle oxygen deprivation during persistence hunting, manage the reduced oxygen levels. They emerged coughing but alive. The third zone was the gravity room. Participants would experience increasing gravity, starting at standard 1G and rising to 2G at the peak. This was meant to exhaust even the strongest species. For humans who had evolved in 1G and whose military trained in higher gravity, it was just hard work. They moved slowly, carefully, supporting each other when someone stumbled. Yuna, with her combat training, handled it best. Even Hana, the medical officer, pushed through the challenge. The fourth zone tested problem-solving under stress. A complex engineering puzzle had to be solved while the room filled with water and time ran out. Most species panicked. Suho looked at the puzzle, grabbed his hammer, and simply broke the weakest point in the mechanism. The puzzle wasn't designed to be solved by brute force and human ingenuity combined. The water drained and they moved on. Observers were no longer making jokes. This civilian crew was succeeding where military units had failed. They moved to the fifth zone, sensory deprivation. Complete darkness, no sound. Disorientation designed to break mental resolve. Hana started singing a soft melody from Earth. The crew held hands and followed her voice. Humans had used sound and song to maintain group cohesion for thousands of years. The challenge meant to isolate them brought them closer together. The sixth zone was the endurance trial. A 10-kilometer run through varied terrain, carrying weighted packs with limited time. This was where most species failed. Their bodies simply couldn't maintain the effort required. But humans were persistence hunters. Their ancestors had chased prey for days until the animals collapsed from exhaustion. 10 kilometers was nothing. Minho led the pace, his navigation skills keeping them on the optimal route. They finished with time to spare. The final challenge was the combat simulation. AI-controlled drones would attack using weapons similar to what galactic threats might employ. Participants were expected to use tactical thinking and whatever skills they possessed to survive. Most species used cover and tried to avoid the drones. The human crew did something different. Yuna immediately took charge. Suho, can you disable one of those drones if we bring it down? Hana, stay in the center of our formation. Minho, watch our flanks. Captain, you're with me. They worked as a pack, the way humans had always hunted. One person drew the drone's attention while another attacked from a different angle. Suho used his hammer to smash a drone's sensor array. Yuna threw her metal pipe with such force and accuracy that it pierced another drone's power core. Jinwoo used his water device to short-circuit a drone's electronics. The drones were designed to be difficult for individuals but manageable for coordinated teams. They weren't designed for humans who had evolved pack tactics over millions of years. The crew moved like one organism, communicating with looks and gestures that needed no words. They destroyed all drones in under 10 minutes. The combat simulation ended. The crew stood in the center of the arena, breathing hard but uninjured. They had completed the proving ground in record time. Every single challenge designed to break elite soldiers had been overcome by civilian freight haulers who just worked together and used the adaptations evolution had given them. In the observation room, Counselor Vren stared at the screens in silence. Speaker Mithrasa turned to him. I believe the humans have proven themselves, Counselor. Vren nodded slowly. They have, but not in the way I expected. I thought they would use brute strength. Instead, they used intelligence, cooperation, and adaptability. Every challenge we designed for individuals they faced as a team. Every environmental extreme we presented, their evolution had already prepared them for. Back in the proving ground, Jinwoo gathered his crew. Everyone okay? Tired, Suho admitted. But okay. That was actually kind of fun, Yuna said, grinning. Once you get past the part where they're trying to kill you. Minho laughed. Only you would think that was fun. Hana checked everyone for injuries, finding only minor bruises and exhaustion. We should rest before we meet the council again. The door to the proving ground opened. Talara stood there, her expression a mix of respect and awe. The council has made their decision. You are granted full recognition as a member species of the Galactic Cooperation. You will have all rights and responsibilities that come with that status. 6 months had passed since humanity's introduction to galactic society. Jinwoo's crew had become famous across dozens of star systems. They had rescued miners trapped in toxic atmospheres, recovered valuable research from unstable planets, and helped establish safety protocols for extreme environments. Humans were proving themselves valuable members of the galactic community, but not everyone was happy about it. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with heated debate. The topic was simple but dangerous: what to do about humanity in the long term. Some species saw humans as essential partners. Others saw them as existential threats. The argument had been building for months, and today it would reach a conclusion. Councillor Vren stood at his seat, his voice cutting through the noise. We must address the human question directly. These beings are Class 3 Deathworlders with capabilities that far exceed most species. They are stronger, more durable, more adaptable. What happens when they decide they don't want to be partners anymore? What happens when they want to be rulers? Speaker Mithrasa tried to maintain order. Councillor Vren, humans have shown no aggressive intentions. Every action they have taken has been peaceful and cooperative. So far, Vren replied. But their very existence changes the power balance of the galaxy. Other species see humans succeeding where we fail. They wonder if Deathworlders are simply superior. This breeds resentment, fear, and instability. A coalition had formed around Vren's position. 12 species, all fearful of human capabilities, wanted strict limitations placed on humanity. Humans would be restricted to their home system. They could not join military forces. They could not hold positions of authority. They would be monitored constantly. Talara stood to speak, her voice firm. I have spent more time with humans than anyone in this chamber. I have watched them work, fight, and make decisions under pressure. Yes, they are dangerous, but they are also compassionate, creative, and fundamentally decent. Restricting them would be a terrible mistake. Easy for you to say, sneered a representative from the Crix Collective, a species that had lost a rescue contract to a human team. You have become an advocate for these creatures. Perhaps you have been compromised by exposure to them. Jinwoo and his crew sat in the observation gallery, watching the debate. They were not allowed to speak during this session. The galaxy was literally debating whether humans deserved freedom or should be caged like dangerous animals. Yuna's fist clenched. Hana looked sad. Suho seemed angry. Minho remained calm, but his eyes were calculating. Jinwoo felt tired. They had worked so hard to prove themselves, and still some species saw them only as threats. The debate continued for hours. Then something happened that changed everything. Alarms blared throughout the station. A biological weapon had been released into the ventilation system. The pathogen was designed specifically to target human biology, engineered by extremists who wanted to prove that humans were vulnerable, that Deathworlders could be killed. The weapon worked too well. Within minutes, humans across the station began showing symptoms: fever, coughing, weakness. Medical teams rushed to help, but they had no treatment for a pathogen specifically designed to exploit human biology. In the observation gallery, Jinwoo's crew felt the effects beginning. Hana immediately started taking samples, her medical training kicking in despite her own illness. But something unexpected happened. The human immune systems, those aggressive defensive networks that had evolved to fight off millions of years of Earth's diseases, recognized the pathogen as a threat. White blood cells mobilized. Antibodies formed. Within hours, the humans began recovering. Their bodies were literally fighting off a bioweapon designed to kill them. Then the second problem appeared. The pathogen had mutated inside human bodies. The new version was spreading through the station's ventilation system, and it was deadly to 3 other species who had similar biology to humans. Dozens of beings began falling ill, and this time there was no natural immunity to save them. Hana worked despite her exhaustion from fighting off the original pathogen. She analyzed the mutated version, understanding how it had changed. Then she did something only a species with terrifying biology could do. She used her own blood, now filled with antibodies that had defeated the original weapon, to create a treatment for the mutated version. We can synthesize this, Hana explained to the station's medical team. Human antibodies are aggressive enough to target the mutated pathogen. We'll need to modify them slightly for compatibility with other species' biology, but it will work. Within 12 hours, human-derived antibodies were being administered across the station. The 3 affected species began recovering. Lives were saved using human biology, the same biology that extremists had called a threat. The medical community watched in awe as human immune systems not only saved humans but provided the cure for others as well. The extremists who had released the bioweapon were caught. They confessed under interrogation, proudly claiming they had proven humans were vulnerable. They had not expected humans to survive. They certainly had not expected humans to save the other victims of their attack. The Galactic Council reconvened the next day. The chamber was quieter now, the debate less heated. Councillor Vren stood again, but his tone was different. "I was wrong," he said simply. "I advocated for restricting humans because I feared their power. But yesterday I watched them nearly die from a weapon designed to kill them, and I watched them recover through sheer biological resilience. Then I watched them use that same resilience to save others. I was wrong to see them only as threats." Speaker Mithrasa turned to Jinwoo. "Captain, you have permission to address the council." Jinwoo stood slowly, still tired from the pathogen. He walked to the central platform where all could see him. For a long moment he said nothing, just looked at the representatives of dozens of species. Then he spoke. "You want to know what humans are? We're survivors. Earth tried to kill us for millions of years. Predators hunted us. Diseases infected us. Weather extremes froze and burned us. Other humans fought us. We survived all of it. Not because we're perfect, but because we're adaptable. We learned to work together because alone we would die. We learned to think creatively because strength alone wasn't enough. We learned compassion because cooperation worked better than conflict." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "Yes, we're dangerous. We evolved on a Class 3 Deathworld, and that made us strong. But that same world taught us that strength without wisdom is useless. Earth was harsh, but it was also our home, and we learned to protect it. We learned to protect each other. That's what humans are. We're protectors who happen to be hard to kill." Jinwoo looked directly at Vren. "You asked what happens when we decide we don't want to be partners anymore. That won't happen. Because humans learned a long time ago that we're stronger together than apart. We didn't survive Earth by dominating it. We survived by adapting to it, by learning from it, by respecting it. We'll do the same with the galaxy." The chamber was silent. Then Talara began a gesture of respect in her species' tradition. Others joined her. Within moments, dozens of species were showing signs of respect in their own ways. Not all of them. Some still feared humans. But enough had changed their minds. The vote was called. Should humanity be granted full citizenship rights with no restrictions? Or should they be limited and monitored? The result was not unanimous, but it was clear. Humanity would be full members of galactic society, with all rights and responsibilities that entailed. Speaker Mithrasa made the announcement official. By council decree, humanity is recognized as a full member species of the galactic cooperation. You will have voting rights, trade privileges, and the freedom to live and work anywhere in council space. Welcome, humans, to the greater galaxy." Jinwoo bowed deeply. "Thank you. We won't let you down." 1 year later, Jinwoo stood on the bridge of the Frontier Spirit, a new ship designed with human needs in mind, but capable of carrying multiple species in comfort. His crew was still with him. Suho had upgraded the engineering systems. Hana had established a medical exchange program, teaching other species about human biology. Minho had charted new navigation routes. Yuna had trained security personnel from a dozen species, but they were not alone anymore. The Frontier Spirit carried a mixed crew. Talara served as first officer, the first non-human to hold a command position on a human ship. Engineers, medical staff, and navigators from various species worked alongside humans, learning from each other. The mission was challenging. A colony ship was trapped near a black hole's gravity well, systems failing, time running out. Standard rescue was impossible. The conditions would kill most species and destroy most ships, but the Frontier Spirit was staffed by beings who had learned to face impossible challenges together. "All hands, prepare for rescue operation," Jinwoo announced. "This is going to be dangerous, but we've trained for this. Humans, you know what to do. Everyone else, follow protocols and trust your training. We've got people counting on us." Suho grinned from his engineering station. "Just another day at work, Captain." Yuna checked weapons systems, ready for any threat. "Let's go save some lives." Hana prepared medical bay for casualties, both human and alien. "We're ready." Gateway Station Tertius hung in space like a massive wheel, home to 70 different species and tens of thousands of beings. It was a hub of commerce, diplomacy, and culture. Today it would become the site of humanity's introduction to galactic society, and nothing would go according to plan. Station Administrator Kelrix was having a terrible day. The Nexian bureaucrat had received Talara's report about the humans, and immediately ordered maximum quarantine protocols. A Class 3 Deathworld species arriving unannounced was exactly the kind of situation that could end his career or, worse, end him personally. They must remain in Containment Zone 7, Kelrix insisted, his tentacles writhing nervously. That sector is designed for hazardous biological specimens. Triple reinforced walls, separate atmosphere control, armed guards at all access points. Talara watched through the observation window as the humans disembarked from their ship. They looked around the docking bay with wide eyes, pointing at things and talking excitedly to each other. They seemed harmless, almost childlike in their curiosity. Talara knew better. She had seen Yuna lift that cargo container like it weighed nothing. Jinwoo approached the security checkpoint where Kelrix waited behind a protective barrier. "Greetings, Administrator. Thank you for welcoming us to your station. We're excited to learn about galactic society." Kelrix's translator converted Jinwoo's words, but the tone was harder to interpret. Was this human being sincere or mocking? With Deathworlders, it was impossible to tell. "You will proceed to Containment Zone 7. There you will remain until the Galactic Council determines your status." Containment? Suho frowned. "That sounds like prison." "It is a safety measure," Kelrix explained. "Your biology is incompatible with most species. You must be isolated for everyone's protection." Hana stepped forward. "We understand you're concerned. How about this? Let me meet with your medical team. I can provide data about human biology. That way you'll know exactly what risks we do and don't pose." Kelrix considered this. Information was valuable, and understanding these creatures' biology could be crucial. "Very well. Medical Officer Hana will accompany Dr. Plixton to Medical Bay 4. The rest of you will proceed to containment." The humans looked at each other, some silent communication passing between them. Finally, Jinwoo nodded. "Okay, we'll cooperate, but we expect to be treated with respect, not like animals in a zoo." 3 hours later, Dr. Plixton stumbled out of Medical Bay 4, his exoskeleton clicking in distress. He found Kelrix in the administrative center and collapsed into a chair designed for his species. "They're impossible," he gasped. "Everything about them is impossible." "Explain," Kelrix demanded. "Their organs are redundant. They have 2 kidneys, 2 lungs, even though they only need 1 of each to survive. Their immune system is so aggressive it attacks foreign bodies within seconds. I watched her blood cells destroy a level 3 pathogen before I could even record the reaction. They have a dedicated system for clotting wounds that activates in seconds. They can heal from injuries that would be fatal to most species." Kelrix's tentacles went rigid. "Are they a threat?" "I don't know." Plixton's voice rose. "She was friendly, patient, answered all my questions. But her body is designed for survival in conditions that would kill me 10 times over. She mentioned something called coffee that she drinks every morning. I analyzed it. It's a Class 2 stimulant narcotic. She drinks poison for enjoyment." Meanwhile, in the station's commerce district, Minho had managed to slip away from the containment zone. No one had told him he couldn't explore, and the doors weren't locked from the inside. He found himself in a food court filled with species he had never seen before. The smells were strange but interesting. He approached a vendor and tried to order food using his translator. The vendor, a spider-like arachnus, recoiled when it saw Minho. "Human, you're not supposed to be here." "I'm just hungry," Minho said honestly. "Do you have anything to eat?" The arachnus chittered nervously but pointed to a menu. Minho ordered something that looked like it might be bread, some kind of fruit, and then remembered he had brought his own coffee and snacks from the ship. He sat at a table and began eating while dozens of species watched him from a safe distance. Minho didn't notice the crowd forming. He was too busy enjoying his break. He drank his coffee, which made several observers' sensors spike with chemical warnings. He ate chocolate, which was toxic to 16 species present. He snacked on chips covered in capsaicin, a compound that most species considered a chemical weapon. He was just having lunch. Station security arrived in force. "You need to return to containment immediately." Minho looked up, confused. "Why?" "I'm not causing trouble. I'm just eating." He held up his coffee. "Want some?" "It's really good." 3 security officers backed away so fast they knocked over tables. One of them, a Vraxian warrior named Court, wasn't afraid. He was insulted. Court was 2.5 meters of muscle and armored hide, a species bred for combat. And here was this soft-looking mammal drinking poison and eating weapons like it was nothing. "You mock us with your Deathworld tolerance," Court growled. "You think you're strong because you survive in harsh conditions? That doesn't make you a warrior," Minho blinked. I'm not trying to mock anyone. I'm a navigator, not a warrior. I just wanted lunch. Then let your warrior face me, Court demanded. In the arena. Combat. We will see if humans are as dangerous as the reports claim, or if you are just lucky prey animals who survived on a harsh world. News of the challenge spread through the station in minutes. By the time Yuna arrived at the arena, thousands of beings had gathered to watch. The arena was a standard combat space, designed for settling disputes according to galactic law. Foe species used ranged weapons or light melee tools. Fights were rarely fatal, usually ending when one side yielded. Yuna walked into the arena wearing her standard work clothes. No armor, no weapons, no equipment. She looked at Court, who stood twice her weight in full combat gear, and smiled. I accept your challenge. Non-lethal combat, standard rules. Court laughed. You face me unarmed? This will be over in seconds. Yes, Yuna agreed. It will. The referee, a neutral Shalonian, signaled the start. Court charged forward like a battering ram, confident in his superior size and strength. Yuna didn't run. She sidestepped at the last possible moment, using Court's momentum against him. As he stumbled past, she struck him twice in the joints where his armor plates met. The hits were precise, powerful, and completely unexpected. Court roared and swung a massive fist. Yuna ducked under it and swept his legs. He crashed to the ground and she was on him instantly, applying a joint lock that made his armor useless. Court struggled, but Yuna's grip was unbreakable. She had trained for years in human martial arts, disciplines that assumed your opponent might be bigger and stronger than you. Yield, Yuna said calmly. Court tried to throw her off. Yuna increased the pressure on the lock. Court's armored hide meant nothing against leverage and technique. After 30 more seconds of futile struggle, Court tapped the ground. The universal signal of surrender. The arena was silent. Then the crowd erupted in noise. Shock, fear, amazement, excitement. A human half Court's size had defeated a Vraxian warrior in 47 seconds using only her hands and knowledge. The fight was broadcast across 30 systems within the hour. Humanity's reputation as Deathworlders was no longer theoretical. Back in the administrative center, Kelrix watched the replay for the 5th time. Talara stood beside him, her expression unreadable. What do we do with them? Kelrix asked. We treat them with respect, Talara said firmly. They've shown restraint when they could have shown violence. Yuna could have killed Court, but chose not to. Minho left containment, but only to find food, not to cause trouble. Hana shared medical information freely. These humans are dangerous, yes, but they're not monsters. The Galactic Council has summoned them, Kelric said. They want to meet humanity officially, to determine what place they have in our society. In Containment Zone 7, Jinwoo gathered his crew. So we've been here 6 hours and we've already scared the medical staff, caused a panic in the food court, and Yuna beat up a local warrior on broadcast entertainment. Suho grinned. Technically, Minho caused the food court panic. Yuna just defended our honor. I was just eating lunch, Minho protested. Hana laughed. I like them. They're scared of us, but they're trying to understand. That's more than some species would do. Yuna stretched. The warrior was overconfident. I taught him a lesson about underestimating opponents. He'll be fine. Probably embarrassed, but fine. Jinwoo sighed. The Galactic Council wants to meet us. They're going to decide if humans are allowed to be part of their civilization, or if we're too dangerous. What do you think will happen? Suho asked. Jinwoo smiled. I think we're going to show them that humans are more than just survivors. We're builders, explorers, and friends. We just happen to be really hard to kill. The crew nodded. Tomorrow they would face the Galactic Council. Tonight they would rest and prepare. Somewhere in the station, beings from 70 species discussed the humans. Some feared them. Some admired them. All of them understood that the galaxy had just changed forever. Humanity had arrived and nothing would ever be the same. The alarm systems of the luminous Accord screamed into the silence of space. Captain Vexthar's 4 eyes focused on the display screen, showing an unmarked vessel drifting near the outer rim territories. The ship looked wrong. Its hull glowed with heat signatures that would melt most species' technology. Energy readings spiked and dropped in patterns that made no sense according to any known civilization's design. Vexthar's scales rippled with concern. In 40 years of service, he had never seen anything like this. The ship was small, roughly the size of a standard freight carrier, but it radiated power like a military destroyer. Worse, its environmental readings suggested conditions inside that would kill most known species within minutes. Security Officer Talara, prepare a boarding team, Bexthar ordered. His voice carried the weight of command, but even he felt uncertain. Full hazard suits. This vessel registers as a Class 3 Deathworld environment. Talara's antenna twitched nervously. Class 3 Deathworlds were the stuff of horror stories in the Galactic Cooperation. Planets where the atmosphere could burn lungs, where gravity crushed bones, where even the water could kill. Only 3 known species had ever evolved on such worlds, and 2 of them were extinct. Ships designed for those conditions were banned in 70 systems. The boarding team crossed through the airlock, their suits humming with protective fields. Talara led them through the corridors of the strange vessel, her scanner painting a picture of impossible danger. The temperature inside read 22 degrees Celsius. That was hot enough to cause heat exhaustion in most species. The gravity measured at 1 standard G, which would exhaust her team within an hour. Most terrifying of all, the oxygen concentration measured at 21%. That level was highly flammable, dangerously reactive. "How is this ship not exploding?" whispered one of her team members, a young Aquillan named Rixtal. Talara had no answer. They moved deeper into the vessel, passing through corridors that seemed designed for creatures of nightmare. Everything was built to wrong proportions, too heavy, too hot, too dangerous. Then they heard it. Voices. Movement. Something was alive on this ship. The boarding team rounded a corner and froze. 5 beings stood in the corridor, watching them with curiosity rather than fear. They were bipedal, standing roughly 2 meters tall with hair covering their heads and smooth skin in various shades of brown and tan. They wore simple clothing. No environmental suits, no protective gear. They were breathing the toxic atmosphere as if it were normal air. One of them, a male with short dark hair and calm eyes, stepped forward. He raised one hand in what might have been a peaceful gesture. "Hello," he said, and Talara's translator struggled to process the language. "I'm Jinwoo, captain of this vessel. Can we help you?" Talara's mind raced. These creatures were standing in a Class 3 Deathworld environment without any protection. They should be dead. The heat alone should have knocked them unconscious. The oxygen levels should have poisoned them. The gravity should have made movement painful and exhausting. How are you alive?" Talara asked, her translator converting her clicks and whistles into something these creatures might understand. Jinwoo looked confused. "Alive? This is normal for us. We're human, from Earth." He gestured to his crew. "This is Suho, our engineer, Hana, our medical officer, Minho, our navigator, and Yuna, our security chief." Each human nodded in greeting. They all looked relaxed, comfortable, unbothered by conditions that would be agonizing for Talara's species. The one called Yuna, a female with sharp eyes and tied-back hair, smiled. It was meant to be friendly, but Talara saw the teeth. They were flat for grinding, but also sharp for tearing. Omnivore dentition. Predator and prey combined. "Earth is not in our databases," Talara said carefully. "What class world is it?" "Class?" Jinwoo frowned, thinking. "I'm not sure what you mean. Earth is just Earth. We have oceans, continents, weather. Standard planet stuff." Suho, the engineer, pulled out a data pad. "Our atmosphere is about 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen with traces of other gases. Gravity is 1 G. Average temperature ranges from -40 to +50 Celsius depending on location and season." "Is that what you need?" Talara felt her blood chill despite the oppressive heat. These creatures had just described a Class 3 death world. They evolved there. They lived there. This environment was not torture to them. It was home. "You need to come with us," Talara said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Your ship violates 70 systems safety regulations. You're operating a hazard vessel in restricted space." Yuna's expression changed, not to anger but to alertness. She shifted her weight slightly, and Talara's trained eye caught the movement. This female was a warrior or something like it. "We're just a freight crew," Yuna said softly. "We didn't know about your regulations. We're new to this area of space. Nevertheless, you must accompany us to Gateway Station for processing," Talara insisted. She reached for her sidearm not to threaten but to establish authority. That was a mistake. Yuna moved faster than Talara thought possible. One moment she was standing 3 meters away. The next she was beside a cargo container that weighed at least 400 kilograms. She lifted it with both hands, not straining, just demonstrating. "We don't want trouble," Yuna said calmly. "But we're not going to be prisoners either." The boarding team raised their weapons. Jinwoo stepped forward, hands raised peacefully. Stop, everyone stop, he looked at Talara. We'll come with you. We'll talk to your authorities. We want to be friendly. But understand this, we're not helpless and we're not prey. We're happy to follow your laws once we understand them. Talara slowly lowered her weapon. These humans were dangerous, possibly the most dangerous species she had ever encountered. But they were also rational, capable of communication and restraint. That made them either the galaxy's greatest hope or its greatest threat. Agreed, Talara said. Your ship will be escorted to Gateway Station Tertius. There, administrators will determine how to proceed with first contact protocols. Jinwoo nodded. Fair enough. We'll follow your ship. He turned to his crew, speaking in their native language. They responded with nods and what might have been acceptance. Then Jinwoo turned back to Talara. One question, though. What's a Deathworld? Talara's translator struggled to convey her species' concept of horror and respect combined. A world that actively tries to kill everything on it, where survival requires constant adaptation and strength, where only the most resilient species can evolve. Jinwoo considered this, then smiled. Yeah, that sounds like Earth. We have a saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Earth tried to kill our ancestors for millions of years. We're still here. As the boarding team returned to the Luminous Accord, Talara filed her report. She described the humans, their impossible biology, their casual strength. She noted their apparent friendliness and their obvious capacity for violence. She ended her report with a warning. Humanity had evolved on a Class 3 death world and survived. They should be approached with extreme caution and, if possible, turned into allies rather than enemies. Captain Vexisthar read the report and made a decision that would change galactic history. He opened a channel to Gateway Station. This is the Luminous Accord. We are bringing in a new species for first contact protocols. Classification, Class 3, Deathworlders. They call themselves humans. Prepare containment facilities and alert the Galactic Council. We have found something remarkable and possibly terrifying. In the human ship, Jinwoo sat in his captain's chair and looked at his crew. Well, this is interesting. We just wanted to deliver cargo and maybe find some trade partners. Instead, we've apparently scared the entire galaxy. Hana laughed. Give them time. Once they get to know us, they'll realize we're not so bad. Minho shook his head. Or they'll realize we're worse than they thought. Yuna cracked her knuckles. Either way, this is going to be an interesting week. The two ships jumped to faster-than-light travel, heading toward Gateway Station where humanity would meet the galaxy for the first time.